Mm.
Why? What's wrong with that?
Shut up. Oh. Just carry on. Sorry.
You will, of course, edit most of this stuff out. Yeah.
Surely. Okay.
I would hope so.
Okay.
Anyway.
Alright, we decided to share with you our little coffee kitchen table conversations because they are, well, they're interesting.
They solve the problems of the world.
They do.
Unfortunately, we already talked today, and we're done. So yeah.
So pick a topic.
Well, I don't know.
Anything that you saw in the news today?
I don't look at the news. The news is depressing.
Yes, you do. You do. Pick one. Something that just like.
No, so there was an article about doctors, right, who are finally coming out against the price of all these medications, specifically cancer meds, and how expensive they are, and how cancer medications, and I'm not familiar with all of them, but it can cost. Yeah, it can cost over $100,000 a year for these cancer medicines, right? And it's insane. Of course, if you have insurance, I guess insurance pays for most of it. But even so, it's ridiculous. And the doctors are now saying, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, they're like questioning a pharmaceutical company that makes these. If they can get by on $3 billion a year in profits, could they get by on $2 billion in profits? And, at what point is, making a fair return on your investment turn into profiteering off of people, emotion, and all these things, and they made mention that you can't, it's illegal to gouge people after a hurricane and charge them $20 per gallon of gas, or $6,000 for a 100-watt generator. So what's the difference here when you've got people desperate against the wall and you're essentially doing the same thing? And the whole, well, we're just recouping our return on investment. I understand that, but these guys are raking it in. They're just raking it in. And, I just kept thinking, if all of the patients, all of us, all the people, and the doctors too, because these are doctors saying that. They're saying enough already. If everybody would just say, you know what, we're not doing this anymore.
Imagine what
to the insurance companies, these big pharmaceutical companies, all these prices would come tumbling down. As soon as the cash flow stops, everything would come down, and because they'd be desperate, and that's where real power comes in, power to people. But the thing is you can't get everybody to do that, and I understand why, because there's some people who they need that help right now, and
they're afraid. I mean, and they take advantage of that.
Well, yeah, and if you're right in the middle of life-saving treatment, and Blaine's going to come up and say, stop doing that because we're going to bring these companies to their knees. It's like, well, that doesn't work. They need it right now. And that's how they get you. They just keep playing on that. But anyway, but it was refreshing to see not just, people sniping here, but some doctors going, yeah, this is ridiculous. And it is. It's ridiculous. It's just the whole industry thing.
I mean, it's sad that, I sit there and think, can these people sleep at night knowing what they're doing?
Oh, no, that's amazing too. For public relations and these people that come out and speak on behalf of these big pharmaceutical companies, the ag companies, the energy companies, and it's amazing. They just prostitute themselves and what they say in defense of the companies that they work for. And you want to just ask them, can you sleep with yourself at night? Do you understand what you just said?
Are you okay with that?
Or do you believe this? Have you drunk so much Kool-Aid that this actually sounds like it's okay with you? Is your paycheck and your BMW or whatever so important that you could say that? And I think a lot of them, when you're in the machine, you don't see.
Well, you can tell we have so gotten away from the corporate hoo-ha-ha. It'll be interesting to hear what some of y'all think about this. And
I understand our quality of life could not exist without corporate America. I mean, from cheap toasters to, you think of an automobile. I mean, how do you build a car and sell it at a profit for $15,000? I mean, you got to think about it.
And you got overhead and all the other stuff that goes with it and
The
advertising.
economies of scale, it is amazing. But there's a point where I think you go too far and you cross a line.
I think especially when it comes to people's health and well-being,
Yeah.
and this can carry over into, the insurance companies. And they have the ability to say, no, you can't get that procedure. We're not going to pay for that. So what does somebody do? You were saying earlier that more and more people are not going into the doctor, even though they have insurance. Now, we don't have insurance. We haven't had health insurance in years.
Yeah.
We're totally okay. But you've got people who are paying into health insurance and then find themselves that they can't afford to go in because their copay is so expensive that they're not going in to get the treatment, yet they're paying for insurance. So these insurance companies, I mean, it drives me crazy because who are they to say I can't get the medical health care that I need because you say I can't get it because it's not on your list?
It's a racket. So you go out and you get the insurance in good faith, and then something happens, and then between your copay that you have to pay or your deductible, so you pay that, and then there's other stuff that's just not covered or is only partially covered. They were talking today about the victims, the bombing victims in Boston, the amputees, and how much of that is not going to be covered, even if they already have insurance. Like insurance might cover a very basic prosthetic, like essentially a wooden peg leg.
But because it was a terrorist thing, they're not going to cover it?
Well, no, that's just medical stuff. But on the terrorism stuff, again with the insurance, there was something, I guess the government made a distinction a few years ago about an act of terrorism in a special insurance fund or something like that, which in effect makes terrorism another rider that you have to put on your insurance policy, like flooding or these special things. So what they were saying today is that these companies that were affected by the bombing in Boston, if they declare that this was an act of terrorism, if they don't have terrorism insurance, they're not going to be covered, and the insurance companies aren't going to have to pay, because it would be like flooding and you don't have flooding.
So if we bomb our house and we don't have terrorist insurance, they're not going to cover?
From what I understood reading today.
Because, we all think about having terrorist insurance.
Yeah, and who would you even ask for that, Because they're not going to, I mean, I know, it's just...
That's insane.
You have to cover every contingency.
You've gone beyond...
From, flooding and, yeah. And then, they're...
So all these companies, those businesses are paying for insurance, and insurance is extremely high.
Well, I'm sure
for
it's
businesses.
Boston, downtown Boston.
Well, for businesses.
Massachusetts.
They're paying for this insurance, and they can't...
Well, they don't know yet. My guess is they have insurance, and so they're waiting to see, do they call it an act of terrorism or do they not? And then depending on that, will determine whether they get compensated, with their insurance claims or not. So who knows? And who makes that determination? And
Again, right.
So.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
crazy.
Just our thoughts, the things that we think about over coffee when Blaine comes home. Because I try not to watch the news or do too much, because it's depressing after a while. You just go, oh my gosh, I live in the United States of America, this is what we're doing. But, so he kind of fills me in and we talk about it over coffee.
Until she tells me to shut up.
And I don't want to hear it anymore, because it's just bummer. Just a bummer. So anyway, we want to hear from you guys. Tell us what you think, your thoughts. Be nice. And if you have any questions or want to hear us talk about something that you're interested in, let us know, and maybe we'll do a video about it.
And we'll save the world together.
We'll do it.
How cool is that?
One coffee cup at a time.
One cup of coffee at a time.
Bye, y'all.